The 14th nanny quit on a Tuesday morning. She stormed out of the estate, her blouse stained with orange juice, her hair a tangled mess, and tears of frustration streaming down her cheeks. She didn't look back. She didn't say goodbye. She just marched to the gate, jumped into her car, and vanished. Eleanor, the housekeeper, watched her go from the kitchen window. Didn't even last 3 days, she muttered to herself. A new record behind her, in the living room. Shouts and laughter echoed. The twins were celebrating yet another victory. Henry Rodriguez was 68 years old. He had a fortune of $300 million and absolutely no idea how to raise 2 7-year-old kids. He had built a real estate empire from the ground up. He had survived 3 economic downturns, 2 fraud attempts, and 40 years of marriage to a strong-willed woman. He had negotiated with politicians, bankers, and ruthless competitors, but nothing had prepared him for Luke and Laura, his grandchildren, his only grandchildren, the children of his only son, the son who was gone. Fred Rodriguez died a year ago, along with his wife Patty, in a private plane crash. They were on their way to Cancun to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. It was their first trip without the twins since they were born. The twins were left with their grandmother, Grandma Carol, Henry's wife. She was going to take care of them that week, but Carol couldn't bear the pain. 3 months after burying her only child, she died of a heart attack. The doctors said it was her heart. Henry knew it was the grief. The pain of losing Fred killed her just as surely as a knife. And so, Henry was left alone. Alone with 2 6-year-old children who had just lost their parents and their grandmother in less than 100 days. Alone in a huge estate that now felt empty. Alone with a guilt that consumed him every time he looked at Luke and Laura and saw Fred's eyes reflected in them. The first few months were a disaster. Henry didn't know how to talk to them. He didn't know what to say when they cried. He didn't know how to comfort them when they screamed their parents' names in the middle of the night. He hired nannies, the best ones, the most expensive ones, the most highly recommended. None of them lasted. The first one quit after 2 weeks. She said Luke had bitten her arm until it bled. The second one left after 10 days. Laura had cut off her hair while she was sleeping. The third one lasted a month. But one day the twins put super glue in her shoes, laxatives in her coffee, and ants in her bed. She left sobbing and threatened to sue, and so it went, one after another. 14 nannies in 12 months. Some lasted weeks, others days. One lasted exactly 4 hours before running out screaming and vowing she would never work with children again. The twins weren't evil. Henry knew that. They were broken children. Children who had lost everything. Children who didn't know how to express their grief except through destruction, but knowing it didn't make things any easier. Henry had tried everything. Psychologists, therapists, grief counselors. The twins refused to talk. They sat in silence during the sessions, staring at the wall, answering with monosyllables when they were asked something. He had tried to care for them himself, but he didn't know how. He didn't know how to cook. He didn't know how to change sheets. He didn't know how to help with homework. He had spent his entire life building a business, and now he realized he knew absolutely nothing about being a grandfather. And every time he looked at the twins, he saw Fred. He saw his eyes, his smile, his gestures, and the pain was so overwhelming that he couldn't breathe. Eleanor, the housekeeper, was the one who kept the house running. She was 45 years old and had worked for the Rodriguez family for 20 years. She had seen Fred born. She had seen the twins born. She had seen everyone he loved die. But Eleanor wasn't a nanny. She had her own responsibilities, and as much as she cared for the twins, she couldn't dedicate herself to them full-time. "We need someone," she told Henry that morning, after the 14th nanny left. "But there aren't any nannies who want to come anymore. Word's gotten around that the kids are unmanageable." Henry rubbed his temples. "Then what do we do?" Eleanor hesitated. "There's a woman. I met her at the farmer's market a few weeks ago. She works as a housekeeper. She's looking for work. A housekeeper? We need a nanny, not someone to clean. I know it, but this woman, there's something about her. She has experience with children, raised 4 kids and several grandkids, and she has patience, a lot of patience. Henry looked at her skeptically. How old is she? 66. 66. Eleanor, we need someone who can run after 2 7-year-olds. Not an old lady. Eleanor crossed her arms. With all due respect, sir, the young ones haven't worked out. Maybe it's time to try something different. Henry didn't have the energy to argue. The truth was he had no options. The nanny agencies refused to send anyone. Personal recommendations had dried up. And the twins. The twins were getting worse and worse. All right, he said finally. Bring her in. But if she lasts less than a week, we'll find another solution. Eleanor nodded. I'll call her today. Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza arrived at the estate on a Thursday morning. She was 66 years old, chocolate brown skin, and a sturdy frame that spoke of decades of hard work and home-cooked meals. Her hair was completely white, pulled back in a simple bun at the nape of her neck. Her eyes were brown, deep, with the look of someone who has seen too much of life but hasn't lost hope. She wore simple but clean clothes, a dark skirt, a white blouse, comfortable shoes. She carried a cloth bag with her belongings. She didn't have a suitcase and she didn't have much. Eleanor greeted her at the door. Ms. Souza, welcome. Thank you, honey, but just call me Bernie. Everyone calls me Ms. Bernie. Eleanor smiled despite herself. There was something about this woman, something warm, something genuine. Come on in. I'll show you around. As they walked through the halls of the estate, Bernie looked at everything with curious but unimpressed eyes. She had cleaned houses of the wealthy her whole life. She had seen luxury before. She knew that money didn't buy happiness, and this house, despite all its luxury, smelled of sadness. Eleanor explained the situation. She told her about the twins, about their behavior, about the 14 nannies who had fled. They're difficult children, Eleanor said. Very difficult, but they're not bad. They're just broken, Bernie finished. Eleanor looked at her in surprise. Yes, broken, Bernie nodded. I know that feeling. I've been broken, many times. I don't ask anymore, I just kept walking. Henry was waiting for her in his study. When he saw Bernie, his first reaction was doubt. This woman seemed older than he expected, more tired, more ordinary. But something in her eyes made him question his first impression. You're Miss Bernadette? Bernie, yes, sir. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Rodriguez. Eleanor tells me you have experience with children. I raised 4 children, sir, and helped raise 7 grandchildren. 7 grandchildren? Impressive. Where are they now? Bernie lowered her gaze for a moment. In heaven, sir. They passed away 5 years ago. A bus accident. My daughter, her husband, and the 3 children. The other 4 grandchildren live with their parents in other cities. I don't see them much anymore. Henry was silent. Suddenly, he didn't see an ordinary old woman in front of him. He saw someone who understood pain. I'm sorry, he said finally. I didn't know. You don't have to know, sir. The pain is mine. But that's why I'm here. Because I know what it's like to lose the ones you love. And I know that children who've lost their parents need something more than a nanny. They need someone who understands. Henry looked at her for a long moment. My grandchildren are difficult. They've driven away 14 nannies. They'll try to drive you away too. Bernie smiled, a soft, fearless smile. Sir, I've survived worse things than 2 angry kids. I'm not going anywhere. Something in her voice convinced Henry. All right, he said. You can start today. Eleanor will show you to your room. Thank you, sir. You won't regret it. Henry said nothing, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something resembling hope. Luke and Laura were in the playroom when Eleanor brought Bernie in. The twins were identical in many ways. Both had light brown hair, green eyes, freckles on their cheeks, but their personalities were different. Luke was the leader, the aggressive one, the one who planned the mischief and recruited his sister. He had a defiant look that made adults uncomfortable. Laura was the follower, but she wasn't innocent. She was the one who executed the plans with surgical precision, the one who smiled sweetly while putting laxatives in your coffee. Together, they were a perfect team of destruction. When they saw Bernie, they both stopped. "Who's that?" Luke asked with a dismissive tone. "I'm Bernie," Bernie said, before Eleanor could answer. "I'm going to be living here from today on." Laura looked her up and down. "You're fat." "Yep, I sure am, and you're small." "We're all something, honey." Luke got up from the sofa. "You're another nanny?" "No, I'm the housekeeper, but I'm also going to be looking after you two." "We don't need anyone to look after us." Bernie shrugged. "Maybe not, but I need this job, so we're just going to have to put up with each other, aren't we?" Luke and Laura exchanged a glance. This woman was different. She didn't seem scared. She didn't seem nervous. She just seemed calm. "We're going to make your life miserable," Luke warned. "All the nannies leave, you'll leave too." Bernie sat down in a chair, but without asking permission. "Maybe so. But it ain't going to be today, or tomorrow, or next week. I've got a lot of patience, honey, more than you can imagine." Luke frowned. "Don't call me honey. You're not my grandma." Bernie didn't react. "You're right, I'm not your grandma, and I'm not going to pretend to be. But as long as I live in this house, I'm going to treat you with respect, and I expect the same from you." Laura laughed. "The nannies always say that, and then they cry." "Maybe, but I don't cry easy. I've already cried all I needed to cry in this life." Something in her voice made Laura stop laughing. The twins looked at her in silence for a moment. Then, without saying anything, they went back to their games, ignoring her. Bernie didn't move. She just sat there, watching, waiting. She knew this wasn't going to be easy. She knew these kids were going to test her. They were going to push her. They were going to do everything they could to make her leave. But Bernie wasn't going to leave. She'd lost too much in this life. Her husband, her children, her grandchildren. She had known pain in all its forms, and she had learned something important. Pain is fought with love, and love requires patience. She had all the patience in the world. The first few weeks were exactly as Bernie expected. The twins declared war on her. The first day, they put salt in her coffee. Bernie drank it without flinching. "It's a little salty," she said. "I'll make my own tomorrow." The second day, they hid all her shoes. Bernie worked barefoot all day. "Feels good to walk without shoes," she said. "My feet needed it." The third day, they put a plastic mouse in her bed. Bernie found it, examined it, and put it on the shelf. "Cute mouse," she said. "I like animals." The fourth day was they locked her in the hall closet. Bernie sat in the darkness and started singing old songs until Eleanor found her 2 hours later. "Gave me time to rest," she said upon leaving. "Thank you." The twins didn't understand. All the previous nannies had screamed, cried, threatened, quit. But this woman didn't do any of that. She just accepted everything calmly, as if nothing could affect her. "Why aren't you mad?" Laura asked one night, frustrated. "Why should I be mad, honey?" "Because we do bad things to you." Bernie looked at her with those brown eyes that seemed to see beyond words. "Honey, you're not doing bad things to me. You're testing me. You're seeing if I'm going to leave like all the others. You're seeing if I'm going to abandon you." Laura was silent. "I'm not going to abandon you," Bernie said. "No matter what you do, I've already lost the people I loved most in this world. I'm not going to lose anyone else." Laura didn't say anything. She just turned and ran to her room. But that night, there were no pranks. And the following night either. Something was changing. Bernie felt it. She saw it in the furtive glances that the twins threw her when they thought she wasn't looking. She saw it in the way they stopped hiding her shoes. She saw it in how Laura sometimes lingered a moment longer near her before running off. But Luke was still resisting. He was the toughest, the most closed off, the one who had built a wall so high that no one could climb it. One night, Bernie found him in the garden. It was late, past midnight. Luke was sitting under a tree, hugging his knees, looking at the stars. "Couldn't sleep?" Bernie asked, sitting down next to him on the grass. Luke didn't look at her. "Go away." "Can't. I need some air too, honey." Silence. Bernie said nothing. She just stayed there, gazing at the same stars that Luke was looking at. Several minutes passed. Finally, Luke spoke. "Do you think dead people can see us from heaven?" Bernie thought about her grandchildren, about her daughter, about everyone she had lost. "I don't know for sure, but I like to believe they can. My mum used to tell me that the stars are the eyes of those who are gone. That's a nice idea." Luke rubbed his eyes. "But if they can see us, then they know it was our fault." Bernie looked at him. "What was your fault, honey?" Luke finally looked at her. His eyes were red, filled with held-back tears. "That they died. It was our fault. Laura and I were fighting. Mom and Dad got angry. They said they needed a break from us. That's why they went on the trip. And the plane. He couldn't finish. The tears started to fall, and Bernie understood everything. The twins weren't angry at the world. They were angry at themselves. They believed they had caused their parents' death. They thought that because of their fight, their parents had decided to go on the trip, and that by going on the trip, they had died. They'd been carrying that guilt for a year, alone, without telling anyone. "Luke," Bernie said softly, "look at me." The boy raised his eyes. "What happened to your parents wasn't your fault, or Laura's. Airplanes sometimes crash. That's horrible, it's unfair, but it happens. And it wasn't because you guys fought. Parents always need time alone. That's normal. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But if we hadn't fought, if you hadn't fought, your parents still would have needed that trip, because parents get tired too. They also need to rest, and that has nothing to do with you." Luke shook his head. "You don't know. You weren't there." "No, I wasn't. But I know something about guilt. I know what it feels like to carry a weight that doesn't belong to you. I carried it for many years, and it almost destroyed me." Luke looked at her with curiosity, despite himself. "What weight?" Bernie took a deep breath. "When my grandchildren died, I was in the kitchen making lunch. They wanted to go visit an aunt in another city. My daughter asked me if I could go with them. I said no, that I had too much work, that they should go without me." She paused. "The bus went off a cliff on a curve. My daughter, my son-in-law, and my 3 grandchildren died, and I spent years believing that if I had gone with them, maybe I could have saved them, or at least I would have died with them, instead of being left alone." Luke listened without blinking. "But one day I understood something," Bernie continued. "If I had gone, maybe I would have died too. Or maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Accidents happen. Death comes when it has to come. And we, those who are left, can't carry that guilt, because the guilt doesn't belong to us." Luke looked down. "But it hurts." "I know, honey. It hurts a lot. But pain isn't the same as guilt. The pain is because we miss them. The guilt is because we believe we did something wrong. And you didn't do anything wrong. Neither did Laura." Luke didn't say anything, but for the first time since Bernie had arrived, he didn't reject her. He stayed sitting next to her under the stars, in silence. And when Bernie finally got up to go inside, Luke took her hand. "Can you stay a little longer?" Bernie sat down again. "As long as you need me to, honey, I'm here." And there they stayed, until the stars began to disappear and the sun began to rise. It was the beginning of something new. Not everything changed overnight. The twins were still difficult. They were still stubborn. They were still testing the limits, but something was different. They weren't trying to make Bernie leave anymore. They didn't see her as the enemy anymore. They saw her as an ally. And that, for Bernie, was enough for now. In the following weeks, Bernie began to build bridges. She didn't force anything. She didn't insist. She didn't make grand gestures or emotional speeches. She was just there, present, available, patient, and little by little, the twins began to approach. Laura was the first to give in. One afternoon, Bernie was in the kitchen making cookies. The aroma of vanilla and chocolate filled the estate. Laura appeared in the doorway, drawn by the smell. "What are you doing?" "Tired," she asked, and trying to sound indifferent. "Cookies, and do you want to help me?" Laura hesitated. She looked back, as if checking that Luke wasn't watching her. "Okay, but only because I'm bored." Bernie smiled. "Sure. Come on. Wash your hands." Laura went to the sink. While she washed her hands, she looked at the dough with curiosity. "I've never made cookies before," she admitted in a low voice. "Never. Mom always bought them ready-made. She said she didn't have time to cook." Bernie didn't say anything about the mother. She just handed her some dough. "Now you have time, and so do I. We're going to make the best cookies in the world." Laura smiled. It was a small, shy, but genuine smile. They spent the afternoon kneading, cutting out shapes, decorating with chocolate chips. Laura got covered in flour. So did Bernie. They both ended up laughing. When the cookies were ready, Laura took one and bit into it. "They're good," she said with her mouth full. "Very good. You made them. That's why they're good." Laura looked at her with bright eyes. "Can we make more tomorrow?" "We can do whatever you want, honey. I'm here for that." Laura didn't say anything else, but when she finished her cookie, she took another, and when she finally left, she gave Bernie a quick hug. It was an awkward, nervous hug, as if Laura didn't know how to do it. But it was a hug, and for Bernie, it was worth more than any words. Luke was more difficult. He had built higher walls, walls that didn't crumble with cookies and hugs. Walls that needed time and patience. Bernie understood. She had met kids like Luke before. Kids who hid their pain behind anger. Kids who pushed everyone away so they wouldn't have to feel the loss again. But she also knew that those walls eventually cracked. You just had to wait. One night, Luke had a nightmare. Bernie heard him scream from his room. She ran down the hall and opened the door. Luke was sitting up in bed, soaked in sweat, shaking. His eyes were open but didn't seem to see anything. "Mom, Fatty," he shouted. "Mom, don't go, Carrie." Bernie approached slowly. "Luke, honey, you're safe." It was just a dream. Luke blinked. He looked at her. For a moment, he didn't seem to recognize her. Then, something broke in him. He started to cry, not silent tears. Real crying. Sobbing that shook his whole body. "I don't want them to go," he said between sobs. "I don't want to be alone." Bernie sat on the bed and hugged him. "You're not alone, honey. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." Luke cried against her chest. He cried like he hadn't cried in a year. All the pain, all the rage, all the fear he'd bottled up came pouring out in that moment. And Bernie held him. She rocked him gently. She sang him the same lullaby she used to sing to her grandkids years ago, an old lullaby, full of love. Luke cried himself to sleep. And when he woke up the next morning, something had shifted. The wall had cracks. From that night on, Luke started seeking out Bernie. Not obviously, mind you. He was too proud for that. But he found excuses to be near her. He'd tag along when she went to the garden. He'd sit in the kitchen while she cooked. He'd pepper her with questions about everything and nothing. "Ms. Bernie, why is the sky blue?" Ms. Burney, do animals have souls? Ms. Burney, do you think there's life on other planets? Burney answered every question with patience. Sometimes she didn't know the answer. Then she'd admit it and they'd look it up together in books or on Henry's computer. Luke discovered he liked learning. He liked asking questions. He liked the sound of Burney's voice explaining things. And without even realizing it, he started to trust her. Eleanor noticed it. The housekeeper had been skeptical at first. She'd seen so many nannies fail that she didn't believe anyone could handle the twins anymore. But this woman was different. "How do you do it?" she asked Burney one day, while the two of them were having coffee in the kitchen. "How do I do what?" "The kids. They're changing. They're not destroying things anymore. They're not screaming all the time. I even heard them laughing the other day." Burney took a sip of her coffee. "I'm not doing anything special, Eleanor. I'm just here. Sometimes that's enough." Eleanor shook her head. "No, it's more than that. You have something. Something the others didn't." Burney thought for a moment. "Maybe the only thing I have is time and patience." The other nannies wanted quick results. They wanted the kids to behave immediately. But kids don't work like that, especially kids who are hurting. She paused. These kids lost everything they knew. Their parents, their grandma. Their whole world crumbled. And we expect them to act like nothing happened. But that's not fair. They have a right to be angry. They have a right to be sad. They have a right to express their pain in the only way they know how. And what's that way? Destroying things, pushing people away, testing limits to see who stays and who leaves. Eleanor nodded slowly. "And you stayed?" "Yes, I stayed. And I'm going to keep staying. Because those kids need to know that there's someone who's not going to abandon them, no matter what they do." Eleanor looked at her with new eyes. "You're a good person, Ms. Burney." "I'm not good or bad. I'm just an old lady who's learned a few things from life. And one of those things is that love is stronger than pain. Always." Henry noticed the changes too. The twins weren't tearing up the estate anymore. They weren't screaming all hours of the day. They weren't playing cruel pranks. But the most important thing was that they had started to smile. Small smiles. Fleeting. But real. Henry couldn't remember the last time he'd seen his grandkids smile. One day, he went down to the kitchen and found a scene that left him paralyzed. Burney was sitting in a chair, with Laura on her lap and Luke by her side. The three of them were looking at an old photo album. Burney's album. "This was my daughter," Burney was saying, pointing to a photo. "Her name was Rose. She had the prettiest laugh in the world." "She's pretty," said Laura. "She looks like you." Everyone said that, but she was much prettier than me. Luke pointed to another photo. "And these were your grandkids?" "Yes. This was Peter, the oldest. This was Paul. And this was Lucy, the youngest. They were about the same age as you when they passed." "Do you miss them?" Laura asked softly. "Every day. But now I have you. And that makes me very happy." Henry felt a lump in his throat. Those kids who had rejected everyone for a year were sitting with Burney like she was their grandma. Like she was part of their family. Something that he, their blood grandfather, hadn't been able to achieve. He walked into the kitchen. "Good morning," he said in a raspy voice. The twins looked at him. Normally they would have ignored him or run away. But this time, Luke spoke. "Grandpa, Ms. Burney was showing us pictures of when she was young. Look, she had black hair." Henry walked over and looked at the photo. "That's right. You were very young, Ms. Burney." "We were all young once," said Burney with a smile. "Even you, sir." Laura giggled. "Grandpa, did you have black hair too?" Henry touched his bald head. A long time ago, yes. Now there's nothing left. The twins laughed, and Henry laughed with them. It was the first time he'd laughed with his grandkids since Fred's death. That night, Henry looked for Bernie in the garden. He found her sitting on a bench, looking at the stars. It seemed like she liked to do that. "May I sit?" "Of course, sir." Henry sat down beside her. "I want to thank you." "For what, sir?" "For what you've done with my grandkids. I don't know how you did it, but you're changing them. You're healing them." Bernie shook her head. "I'm not healing them, sir. They're healing themselves. I'm just giving them space to do it." Henry looked at her. "You're a very wise woman." "I'm not wise. I'm just old. And old people have made so many mistakes that sometimes we learn something from them." Henry chuckled softly. "I've made a lot of mistakes. I spent my whole life building a business and I didn't see my son grow up. Now my son is dead and I have to raise his children. And I don't know how to do it." Bernie looked at him with compassion. "Nobody knows how to raise children, sir. We all improvise. We all make mistakes. The important thing is not to give up." Henry looked down. "I almost gave up. When Carol died, I thought about a lot of things." Bernie didn't say anything. She just waited. "I thought it would be better if I was gone too. That way the kids could go to some foster family, someone who knew how to take care of them. But he didn't. No, I didn't. Because Carol would have hated me if I did. And Fred too. They left me these kids because they trusted me, and I couldn't betray that trust." Bernie nodded. "That's brave, sir. To stay when everything tells you to run. That's the bravest thing a person can do." Henry looked at her. "You stayed too. After losing your family, you kept going too. I didn't have a choice. I had to work. I had to survive. But now, here with your grandkids, I feel like I've found a purpose. I feel like all the pain I went through had a purpose, because it prepared me to be here, to help these children." Henry felt tears welling up in his eyes. "Thank you, Ms. Bernie. Thank you for staying. You don't have to thank me, sir. These children have saved me, just as much as I'm saving them. Sometimes, the family we lose prepares us for the family we're going to find." Henry didn't say anything. He just sat there, next to Miss Bernie, gazing at the stars. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone. The months passed. The twins kept changing, improving, healing. Luke started getting good grades in school. He no longer fought with the other kid, and he wasn't the little terror that had haunted the teachers. Laura started making friends. She no longer isolated herself. She didn't spend her recesses alone, watching the other kids play. They still had difficult days. Days when the pain returned and crushed them. Days when they cried and screamed and hid from the world. But those days were becoming less frequent. And when they came, Ms. Bernie was there. She was always there. One day, Laura asked her a question. "Ms. Bernie, do you love us?" Bernie looked at her, surprised. "Of course I love you. Why do you ask?" Laura looked down. "Because my mom and dad loved us, and they left. And Grandma Carol loved us, and she left too. Everyone who loves us leaves." Bernie felt her heart breaking. "Honey, come here." Laura approached her. Bernie embraced her. "Your mum and dad didn't leave because they wanted to. It was an accident, and Grandma Carol didn't want to go either. She was very sick with sadness. But that doesn't mean they abandoned you. The love they had for you is still here, right here inside." She touched her chest. "And my love is here too. And it's not going anywhere, no matter what happens. Even if one day I'm no longer physically here. My love will stay with you, always. Laura hugged her tightly. Promise you won't die soon? Bernie chuckled softly. I can't promise that, honey. No one can. But I can promise you that I'm going to be here for as long as I can, and that I'm going to love you until my last day and beyond. Laura said nothing. She just hugged her. And in that embrace, Bernie felt everything. The girl's pain, the fear, but also the hope. The hope that maybe, just maybe, not everyone was going to abandon her. A year passed, a year since Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza had arrived at the estate with her tote bag and her heart full of scars. A year of patience, of love, of small, everyday miracles. The twins were no longer the broken children who had driven away 14 nannies. Now they were children. Just children, with laughter, normal mischief, dreams, fears. Children who went to school, made friends, argued over silly things, and made up before going to sleep. Children who had a family. And that family included Ms. Bernie. Henry had stopped being an absent grandfather. He had learned, with Bernie's help, to be present, to listen, to play, to be part of his grandchildren's lives, instead of just watching them from afar. Family dinners had become a tradition. Henry, Bernie, Luke, Laura, and sometimes Eleanor, the housekeeper, sitting around the table, sharing food, stories, laughter. It seemed like the darkness had finally been left behind. But then, the day arrived. March 21st, the anniversary of Fred and Patty's death. Henry had dreaded it. He had tried to prepare himself. But when he woke up that morning, he knew he wasn't ready. He would never be ready. He went down to breakfast, expecting the worst, and found Ms. Bernie in the kitchen, making pancakes. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ms. Bernie. Are the kids awake yet? Not yet. But they'll smell the pancakes, and they'll come running. Henry sat down at the table, looked out the window. You know what day it is. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. I know. The kids. How do you think they're going to react? Bernie stopped stirring the batter. I don't know. But we're going to be there for them, no matter what happens. Henry nodded. Sometimes. I wonder if we should do something. Some kind of ritual. A visit to the cemetery, something that marks the day. Bernie thought for a moment. Maybe. You should ask them what they want to do. Ask them? Yes. They're their parents. They should decide how they want to remember them. Henry hadn't thought of that. He had always assumed that he, as an adult, should make the decisions. He should protect the children from pain. He should handle the difficult things for them. But maybe Bernie was right. Maybe it was time to let the twins have a voice. Luke and Laura came down 15 minutes later, drawn by the smell of pancakes. They sat down at the table, yawning, still half asleep. Good morning, grumbled Luke. Good morning, honey. How did you sleep? Good. I dreamed about Mom. Henry tensed. Oh? What did you dream? Luke grabbed a pancake and covered it with syrup. I dreamed that we were at the beach. Mom was building sandcastles with us, and Dad was teaching us how to surf. It was a good dream. Laura nodded. I dreamed about them too. Mom was brushing my hair. She always brushed my hair before bed. Henry didn't know what to say, but Bernie did. Those are beautiful dreams, she said softly. Sometimes the people we love visit us in dreams. It's their way of telling us that they still love us. Luke looked at her. You think so? Yes. My daughter Rosa visits me sometimes. She smiles at me and tells me she's okay, that she's happy, And when I wake up, I feel at peace. Laura put down her fork. Today's the day, isn't it? The day Mom and Dad died? Yes, honey. Today is 1 year. Silence. The twins exchanged a look. One of those looks that only twins understand. I want to go to the cemetery, Laura said finally. I want to visit Mom and Dad. Me too, said Luke. Henry nodded. Okay, we'll go after breakfast. But I want to do something else, said Laura. I want to bring them something. Something special. What thing, honey? Laura thought. Letters. I want to write them letters. Tell them everything that happened this year. Everything we did. Everything we learned. And then I want to read them aloud, so they can hear them. Luke nodded. I want to write a letter too. I want to tell them I'm not angry anymore, that I miss them, but that I'm okay, that Miss Burney is taking care of me, and Grandpa too. Henry felt tears in his eyes. That's a beautiful idea, he said in a trembling voice. Very beautiful. Bernie stood up. Then we should get started. I'll go get paper and pencils. They spent the morning writing, each in their own space, with their own thoughts, with their own pain. Henry wrote his own letter, even though no one asked him to, a letter to his son, asking for forgiveness for everything he didn't do, for everything he didn't say, for all the years he lost at working instead of being with him. When they were finished, they got into the car. Henry was driving. Miss Bernadette Burney Souza was next to him. Luke and Laura were in the back, each holding their letter like it was treasure. The cemetery was quiet. They walked among the tombstones until they reached Fred and Patty's. It was a double tombstone, made of white marble, with their names engraved in golden letters. Fred Rodriguez Sanchez, Patty Morales Rodriguez, together in life, together in eternity. The twins stood in front of the tombstone, in silence. Then, Laura took a step forward. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, she said softly. It's Laura. I came to visit. She took out her letter. I wrote you something. I hope you can hear me. And she began to read. Dear Mom and Dad, it's been a year since you left. At first, I was so angry. I was angry with you for leaving me. I was angry with the world for being so unfair. I was angry with myself for believing it was my fault. She paused, and her voice catching in her throat. But now I understand that it wasn't anyone's fault. It was an accident. A horrible accident. And even though it hurts so much, I'm not angry anymore. She continued reading. This year, I learned many things. I learned how to bake cookies with Grandma Burney. I learned that it's okay to cry. I learned that even though people leave, love stays. And I learned that I have a new family, Grandpa Henry, who now plays with us and tells us stories, Grandma Burney, who takes care of us and loves us as if we were her own grandchildren, and Luke, my brother, who isn't as annoying as he used to be. Luke chuckled softly, a small smile flickering across his face. I miss you every day, but I know you're in heaven, watching over us, and I know that one day I'm going to see you again, but in the meantime, I'm going to live. I'm going to be happy, because that's what you would have wanted. She finished reading, her voice trembling. I love you. I'll always love you. Your daughter, Laura. She folded the letter and placed it on the tombstone. Then, Luke stepped forward. My turn, he said, his voice husky. He took out his letter. Dear Mom and Dad, it's Luke, your son, the one who always played pranks and drove you crazy. He smiled sadly. This year was the hardest of my life, when you left. I felt so alone, so scared. I didn't know how to live without you. I didn't know who to be. He paused, his eyes welling up. I did bad things. I got rid of a lot of nannies. I made Grandpa's life impossible. I thought that if everyone left, It wouldn't hurt me anymore, but I was wrong. He continued reading. Then Grandma Bernie came along. At first, I wanted to get rid of her too, but she didn't leave. No matter what I did, she stayed, and little by little, I started to trust her. I started to love her. He looked at Miss Bernadette Bernie Souza, a grateful expression on his face. She taught me that crying isn't for weaklings, that missing the people we love is normal, that the guilt I carried wasn't mine to carry. He turned back to the letter. I don't feel guilty anymore. Mom and Dad, I don't believe it was my fault that you left. It was an accident, a sad and horrible accident. But it wasn't my fault, he finished, his voice thick with emotion. I miss you. I'll always miss you. But I'm okay. I have Grandpa. I have Grandma Bernie. I have Laura. I have a family. And even though you aren't physically here, I know you're watching over me from heaven. I love you. Your son, Luke. He placed the letter next to Laura's. Henry stepped forward. I wrote something too, he said. If you don't mind. The twins nodded. Henry opened his letter. Dear Fred, what my son, a year ago, I lost you. And with your loss, I lost a part of myself that I'll never get back. His voice trembled. I regret so many things. All the soccer games I missed because I was working, all the dinners I came home late to, all the conversations we never had because I was too busy building an empire. That now means nothing. He paused, taking a deep breath. But I'm also grateful. Grateful for the moments we did have, for the last Christmas we spent together, for the smiles of Luke and Laura, for the love you showed me until the last day. He continued, his voice filled with emotion. I promise you that I'm going to take care of your children. I'm not going to make the same mistakes I made with you. I'm going to be present. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to love them with everything I have. He finished, his voice cracking. Rest in peace, my son, you and Patty. Rest knowing that Luke and Laura are okay, that they have a family that loves them, and that you will always be remembered. He placed the letter on the tombstone. Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza hadn't written anything, but she approached the tombstone and spoke in a low voice. I didn't know you, she said, but I know your children, and I know that you raised them well. They are wonderful children, brave, strong, loving, and I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to protect them until my last day. I promise you. Silence. The wind blew softly. The leaves on the trees whispered. And for a moment, everyone felt something. A presence. A peace. As if Fred and Patty were there, listening. Laura took Luke's hand. Luke took Henry's hand. Henry took Miss Bernadette Bernie Souza's hand. And there they stood, the four of them, united, in front of the tombstone. A family, formed by pain, united by love. When they returned to the estate, something had changed. Not something dramatic, not something visible, but something fundamental. The twins seemed lighter, as if they had left something at the cemetery, something heavy that they had carried for a long time. The guilt. Henry also seemed different, more calm, more at peace. That night, they ate dinner together as always, but the conversation was different. They talked about Fred and Patty. They told stories. They remembered the good times. It was the first time that the twins had talked about their parents without crying, without getting angry, without hiding. They were healing. Finally, after dinner. Luke approached Miss Bernadette Bernie Souza. Grandma Bernie, can I ask you something? Of course. Honey, anything. Luke hesitated. Do you love us like your real grandchildren? The ones who passed? Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza looked him in the eyes, her heart swelling with love. Honey, I couldn't love you more if I tried. You are my grandchildren now. Not by blood, but by heart. And the heart is what matters. Luke smiled. A big, genuine smile. Then, can I call you Grandma? Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza felt her heart burst with joy. You can call me whatever you want, honey. But Grandma sounds very nice. Luke hugged her tightly. And in that hug, Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza felt that all the pain in her life had had a purpose. It had prepared her for this moment, for this family, for these children, who were now hers. 3 years passed, 3 years of laughter, of tears, of growth. 3 years of birthdays, Christmases, summer vacations. 3 years of a life none of them could have ever imagined. Luke was 10 years old now. He'd become a serious, studious child, with an insatiable curiosity about the world. He wanted to be a scientist, or an astronaut, or both. Laura was also 10. She had discovered her passion for music. She played the piano. She sang. She wrote songs. Her teachers said she had talent. Real talent. They were still twins. Still fighting over silly things, still playing pranks on each other. But they were also still inseparable, united by a connection that went beyond words. Henry had changed the most of all. He was no longer the distant businessman who lived for work. He had officially retired a year ago. He had sold most of his stock and had left the company in the hands of a competent team. Now he spent his days with his grandchildren. He took them to school. He helped them with their homework. He listened to them talk about their dreams, their fears, their puppy loves. He was the grandfather he had never been to Fred. And that, in some way, was his way of honoring his son's memory. Ms. Bernadette Bernie Souza was still Bernie. Her hair was whiter. Her knees protested more often. Her hands could no longer knead dough without resting every few minutes. But her spirit remained intact. Her love kept growing. Her presence remained the anchor that kept that family together. One day, Henry called her to his study. Bernie, I need to talk to you. Bernie entered, her heart beating a little faster than normal. When the boss called you in for a talk, it was rarely good news. But what Henry told her was not what she expected. 3 years ago, you came to this estate as a housekeeper, Henry began. I hired you because I had no other options. I figured you'd last a week, like the others. Bernie said nothing, just listened. But you didn't leave. You stayed. You stayed when my grandchildren put salt in your coffee and mice in your bed. You stayed when they yelled at you and insulted you. You stayed when anyone else would have quit. Henry paused. And in those 3 years, you became more than just an employee. You became my grandchildren's grandmother, my friend, part of my family. He took an envelope from his desk. That's why I want to give you this. Bernie took the envelope with trembling hands. She opened it. Inside was a legal document. Many words she didn't understand. But there was a highlighted section that she could read. Henry Rodriguez, hereby declare Ms. Bernadette Souza as the beneficiary of a $10 million trust fund. Bernie stopped reading. Sir, I can't accept this. I'm not asking you, Henry said with a smile. It's already done. The money is yours. But sir, it's too much. I only did my job. Henry looked at her intently. Bernie, you saved my grandchildren. You brought them back from a very dark place. You gave them back their childhood. That's priceless. $10 million is a fraction of what you deserve. Bernie felt tears welling up in her eyes. I don't know what to say, sir. You don't have to say anything. I just want you to know that this estate will always be your home. As long as I live, you have a place here. And when I'm gone, my grandchildren will take care of you. Because that's what family does." Bernie hugged him. It was the first time she had ever hugged Henry in 3 years of working together. She had always maintained a respectful distance, but in that moment, the distance disappeared. "Thank you, sir. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Bernie, sir, for staying." That night, there was a celebration. The twins organized a surprise party for Bernie. They decorated the garden with balloons, prepared a dinner with all her favorite dishes, and gave her gifts they had bought with their own savings. "Grandma Bernie," said Luke, "this is for you." He gave her a small box. Inside was a necklace with a heart-shaped pendant. "I picked it out myself," Luke said proudly. "Because you have the biggest heart in the world," Bernie cried. Laura also had a gift, a scrapbook full of photos. "They're all the photos we've taken together these 3 years," Laura explained, "so you'll never forget the good times." Bernie flipped through the pages. Each photo was a memory. Luke learning to ride a bike, Laura at her first piano recital, the 4 of them together at the beach, Christmases, birthdays, ordinary days that had become extraordinary. "This is the best gift you've ever given me," Bernie said, hugging both children. Not children. They were no longer children. They were her grandchildren. Henry stood up and raised his glass. "I want to make a toast to Bernie, the woman who came to our estate when everything was darkness and brought us light. The woman who didn't leave when everyone else did. The woman who became our family." The twins raised their juice glasses. "To Grandma Bernie, to Grandma Bernie," Henry repeated. "To us," said Bernie with a smile. "To this crazy and beautiful family we've formed together." They toasted. And in that moment, under the stars of the garden, surrounded by the people she loved, Bernie felt something she hadn't felt in many years. Complete happiness, absolute peace. The certainty that, despite all the pain she had suffered, life still had beautiful things to offer her. 10 years later, Bernie was 76 years old. Her body was no longer the same. Her hands trembled. Her eyes didn't see as well as before. Her heart, that enormous heart that had loved so many people, beat a little slower each day. But her spirit remained intact. Luke was 20 years old. He was studying aerospace engineering at a prestigious university. He still dreamed of the stars, of being an astronaut, of exploring the universe. Laura was also 20 years old. She had released her first album last year. Her songs spoke of love, of loss, of family, of everything she had lived through, and the world was listening. They both came to visit every weekend, without fail, without excuses, because the family they had built was sacred. Henry was 78 years old. His health wasn't the best, but he was still there, still present, still being the grandfather he had promised to be. One Sunday morning, Bernie woke up with a premonition. It wasn't something bad, just different, as if she knew that day was going to be special. She went down to the kitchen and made breakfast, as she did every Sunday. Pancakes with maple syrup, scrambled eggs, fresh orange juice. Henry came down first. "Good morning, Bernie." "Good morning, sir." They sat together, waiting for the twins. "I've been telling you to call me Henry for 10 years now," he said with a smile. "And you still call me sir." Bernie chuckled. "Old habits die hard, sir." Henry shook his head, but his smile just grew wider. The twins arrived an hour later, together, as always. "Grandma Bernie!" they shouted as they burst through the door. They hugged her tight. Bernie felt small in their embrace. They'd grown so much. They weren't the broken kids who'd come into her life 10 years ago. They were adults now, strong, happy, healthy, and she'd been a part of that. They ate breakfast together, talking about everything and nothing. Luke's studies, Laura's upcoming concert, Christmas plans. And at some point, Bernie looked at the three of them, her family, not by blood, but by heart. And she knew with absolute certainty that her life had meant something. All the pain, all the losses, all the suffering. It had led her here, to this table, with these people, in this moment. "I'm so proud of you," she said suddenly. The three of them looked at her. "Of all of you, of everything you've achieved, of the people you've become." Tears welled up in her eyes, but they were tears of joy. "When I came to this estate, you were broken. Everyone was broken, and I was broken too. But together, we fixed each other. We healed. We became a family." She paused. "And that's the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me." Luke hugged her first, and then Laura, then Henry. And there they stood, the four of them, embraced in the middle of the kitchen. A family, formed by pain, united by love, strengthened by the years. That night, Bernie went to sleep with a full heart. She dreamed of her children, her grandchildren, all the people she had loved and lost. But this time, it wasn't a sad dream. It was a dream of reunion, of peace, of eternal love. And when she woke up the next morning, she knew she had been blessed, not with money, not with fame, not with material things, but with something much more valuable. A family that loved her, a family that needed her, a family that had saved her, just as much as she had saved them. And that, in the end, was all that mattered.